Hello, Hockey World. Here we are. We are back. It's Monday, and we got lots to get in today. We got rumors flying all over the place. We got all kinds of things that happened on the weekend. It's getting exciting. We have less than a month to go before the trade deadline. Rush, you got anything for us this morning?
Yeah, the NFL trade deadline, and I think a lot of what's
No, free
agency. Sorry, but the NFL free agency is sort of like their trade deadline too, because they don't make trade, and that's where my brain went. So looking at their free agency so far, it's been open for over an hour, and they've only had re-signings. And, that's what happens right now with leagues that are going through a pandemic and not a lot of teams have money. Now, I'm wearing my Jets hat because they have all the money, and so far they've lost a player. So it really is disheartening when you have a team that says, yeah, we're going to be out there aggressively spending, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and you lost a player that actually had a good year for your team and was signed very cheaply by another team. And his name is Pat Eflin, and he was signed for like 3 years, $13.5 million, I think $6 million up front. Like, it doesn't make sense. They're going to need, even if they feel like they're going to pick up all these guys and draft picks that will start on the offensive line, you still need backups, real good, capable backups on the offensive line. Mike knows that. He sees how they get hurt. And I don't get it. I don't understand the strategy. And I have a feeling this could be a very frustrating free agency period for the Jets, because just because they have money, it doesn't mean players want to go there.
Yeah, and it's weird. And we've seen this in all professional sports, and especially I think now in the next couple of years, this will be reflected in hockey. Players taking less to stay with a team that they think they can win with. That's what happened with the Bills, with the signings that they have. But I think with the cap, even though it was funny, it was explained about the money coming in with the new ESPN contract, and people were asking, well, when is the cap going to go up? Okay, you still have to make up that almost $1 billion of deficit that the owners have paid out that didn't come from revenue. So it's going to take at least a couple years, maybe maybe 4, until it gets over 81.5. And players over the next couple years, and this is going to have a chilling effect on free agency.
Yeah.
When July comes around, players are saying, "Oh, this guy's going to make $7 million a year." Nobody's going to give $7 million a year. There's going to be situations where guys like Taylor Hall or other players in free agency may take 1 year to get the high amount, or take less on a long-term deal, because that's all these teams have.
Yeah, I mean, in previous years for NFL free agency, an hour into it, you would have 3 or 4 good signings, big names. So far, we have nothing. We do also want to mention happy trails to Drew Brees, who retired. Mm-hmm. I had the honor of meeting him twice and interviewing him both times, once at the NFL Experience, once at a NFL Super Bowl event in New York City. And such a good guy. Like, it's just, these are the kinds of guys that you root for. And he had a great career. He won a Super Bowl. He didn't win another one, but that's okay. He'll be a Hall of Famer one day. And this is a guy everybody said was too small. There were teams that gave up on him. What was there? At least 2 teams that gave up on him, Mike? The Chargers and who else?
Chargers. Well, no, it was Chargers, and then Miami. He couldn't pass the physical.
That's right. So Miami was the other one. Yeah, and lo and behold, he has this great career, plays to the age into his 40s. And, now after last year, he had like 4 assorted injuries. One of them were fractured ribs, and he still came back from that. But he just wasn't the same. So I wish him well. He's going to be an analyst. I'm sure one of the networks is hiring him any minute, and so it'll be good for him. He's a good, positive guy for that sport.
No, really good, positive guy. Yeah, I've never got a chance to meet him, but I've heard nothing but great things.
Yeah, it's really true. He's one of these guys that if you talk to him for 5-10 minutes, he'll motivate you somehow, even though you didn't intend on that.
That's great.
Yeah,
I love it. That's awesome. All right, let's get started here. Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. Yes, we never got that hour back. Someone made fun of me for thinking I missed the hour. Let me, before I start this, I'm going to say this. I did change my clocks right. I do know times. I do know.
We have a couple days to do it.
Yeah, I know, though you'll never get that hour back. That's always the joke for me around here.
Right.
All right, here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It is Monday, March 15th, 2021.
Beware of the Ides of March. I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world.
Or should I say beware of the trades of March, right?
There you go.
Right. We're looking for them. We're waiting for them. We're hoping. And I got some players we can discuss right off the bat here. Or we can get into some of the games from the weekend that we need to talk about. We can talk about the Flyers. Yeah.
Well, let's start with the games.
So let's start with the games. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, okay, I'll start with the two rather mediocre and flawed performances by the Toronto Maple Leafs against Winnipeg and against Ottawa. The one against Ottawa is not as distressing as you would think because, people on my Twitter line, Ottawa's losing 7-1 to Edmonton. Well, yeah, they are losing 7-1 to Edmonton, but as we firmly established, I think they have 8 wins. 6 of them are against Montreal and Toronto. They play Montreal and Toronto a lot tougher than they play the teams out west. They work themselves up into a lather because that's their provincial rival, and Montreal is their rival in the Atlantic Division. So what you see with Ottawa against Toronto is not the same as you see against the Oilers or the Canucks. Now, I have to tip my hat to Joey Decor, who came in. And what a weird situation. Matt Murray gets hurt in warm-ups.
Yeah.
Decor comes in. He makes 33 saves for his first NHL victory. Russ, you've talked about him when he got signed as a college free agent. And, talk about that for a second.
Yeah, I mentioned him because he was really good. I had a chance to see him. Everybody was talking about him one season, and I was like, well, I can't go see Arizona State. But then they came here to Lehigh for the East Regionals or whatever. I shouldn't even say East Regionals because it's on the East, but they always call it something else. So whatever the regional was, I went there. And he was really good. Like Arizona had a few good players, Johnny Walker, a few guys, but he was really the show. And he's terrific. And his father's a goalie coach in the NHL, and I'll tell you, he is one of these guys that has really put the time into his craft. The interview after the game was tremendous because, the fact that he beat Toronto and he goes, yeah, you don't draw it up this way, and he was practically crying, just shows you sometimes the level of commitment that players put in just to reach the NHL and as a goalie just to get a win because there's not that many goalie jobs. So it was really nice. And
well, there may be a few goalie jobs in Toronto the way things are. But okay,
we're going to talk about it.
Well, okay. First of all, if you look at his statistics, and this is why statistics are misleading.
Every time? Wait, statistics are always misleading?
I says why they're sometimes misleading.
Oh, you said sometimes. Okay, I didn't hear the word sometimes. Okay.
Currently, Michael Hutchinson, I think his record was 3-2-1 with goals against in the mid-twos and a .922 save percentage. You would think that he's playing well. Well, he played not so well against Vancouver last weekend, and then he gave up 2 goals on 3 shots against Ottawa yesterday, forcing Freddie Anderson to come in in a 4th game in 6 days. Now, luckily, the Leafs have 4 days off this week. They don't play until Friday. But this is again the same old when it comes to them playing Anderson too much. It's been forced on him because Jack Campbell is hurt, and now if Campbell is hurt long term, they can't rely on Hutchinson as a backup. They need somebody who can play minutes. Now, they are saying that Campbell is very close to being back, but Campbell has got to play more than a normal backup does. He's got to play a 1B role because he's won all 3 games he's played, but he hasn't played in 7 weeks. So they need Campbell back. The other thing is maybe you can scratch this up to the Leafs being weary because they've had a ridiculous schedule in terms of it. Everybody's got a ridiculous schedule. So I can't use that as an excuse. And people in the chat are talking about the Finnish goaltender that they traded for Columbus. He's an AHL goalie. He is not a solution.
We don't really know that. We think that, but you don't know that.
Russ, I don't think they consider him an NHL option.
Today, again. All right, so let's bring up a couple things.
Okay.
I know that you talked about the PK being bad on the Leafs, and I'm in agreement with you on that. Now, again, though, in hockey lore, your goalie is supposed to be your best penalty killer as a rule.
Right.
Even so, now this game, Anderson had to come in. You said he was 4-6. I get it. He made some really good saves. I get it. How many games has he won for your team this year? Because this would have been a nice one for Freddie Anderson to come in and shut them down, or at least give up one goal and have the Leafs come back and win. It would have been a nice one for him to do that.
Yeah,
Sure.
but after the 2 goals, he steadied them, but then he gives up 2 goals to Batherson in 53 seconds in the second period, and then it's over with.
But what do you say about that? Write that down right there, because to me, I get it.
One was a power play goal.
Okay, but all right, so let's get to that. I hear this so often in Philly, and Eck, I definitely want you to chime in because you're a goalie. I hear, well, it's not his fault. It was on the power play. Oh, maybe he was screened. You can't always give a goalie a pass, even on a power play goal, because the whole idea about positioning and head tracking and all that is because sometimes you are going to have to see the puck blindly. Sometimes guys are going to take away your eyes. That's part of the position, though.
No, for sure.
Anderson's got 13 wins right now. I would say he's played above average in more than half of his wins.
Yeah.
Now,
what about the loss?
well, I mean, I would say probably in the losses, maybe he's played average in, say, 5 of 7. So, I mean, is he having a great year? I mean, okay, again, statistics, 2.86 goals against, 900 save percentage for a team that is playing better defensively. He was playing good just as he got hurt, and since he got hurt, he has played average at best. And, of course, that has coincided with them playing average overall. Now, they've lost 5 of the last 6, but they're still in first place. I don't think it's reason to panic, but if Kyle Dubas is going to make his move, which we've heard about for a while, Elliot Friedman said a couple weeks ago that this is around the time that they would make that move with the 14-day quarantine. So it might be the opportunity for them to make their move in the next couple of days. We'll see. But getting to Philadelphia, go ahead.
Well, hold on. Let's talk about the power play part of it and what a goalie can stop and what is realistic in saying, okay, you know what, it's a power play. He couldn't stop that one.
Well, yeah, I mean, power plays are of course big because of, for a lot of reasons. But one thing we always talk about with goalies, right, is the momentum aspect of it. I begin and end for me for goaltending is momentum saves. Like that's the whole thing. I mean, we have great goalies, we see great goalies, and this has been my knock on Anderson at times and other goalies like him, that you've got to make those saves at the biggest times in the biggest situations, and power plays, of course, are one of them.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, that's one of them.
No, but I see that's the thing. I really believe that momentum saves are bull crap. I really do. It's like I really do. It's like, I mean, how many times do we hear Grant Fuhrer? When it was 6-5, he made that big save that kept.
How many Stanley Cups?
He stopped the first 5 goals.
But it doesn't matter.
One Stanley Cups. I mean, that's it, right? I mean,
right.
I mean, you can't. That's it. That's to me, that's the whole thing. I mean, they won the Stanley Cups, and you can't get around that. I mean. Yeah, I mean, he was not a great. You just have to watch the games to realize what Grant Fuhrer did. Like when you watch that team back then, they were amazing up front, but they were allowed to do the crazy things they did because they trusted Grant Fuhrer. He might not have been always great, but they trusted him enough to let both their defense take rushes, to take extra chances. Different things, that's what they did, and that's.
I was never a big appreciator of Grant Fuhrer because I mean, he was acrobatic, but I don't think he was, the biggest clutch. I would in the early '80s, I would have rather had Billy Smith than Grant Fuhrer.
All right, I'm going to read you stats.
They're both really good.
That there's no way of saying this is a bad stat or misleading because it's just factual. Okay. Mm-hmm. So going back to 2018, starts that Freddie Anderson had that he was under at 850 save percentage or under were 8 in 66 games, then 7 in 60, then 8 in 52. So they went up a bit. He's had 5 in 22, Mike.
Right. 5. Yeah, and I'll bet you 4 of the 5 are in the last 5 or 6 games.
Or whatever. I mean,
after he got hurt, and that's what I'm saying, Russ. Right now, the fact that Jack Campbell is not available is hurting this team because It's forcing Anderson to play games where he might not be at 100% and forcing them to play Michael Hutchinson. Freddie Anderson is a pretty mild-mannered guy, and after the game on Saturday, he was bristling at questions from the media about, are you 100%, and how do you feel like you're playing? I mean, clearly there's something bothering him right now, whether it's the team in front of him or whether it's his own play. I don't know, but something's, and maybe it gets straightened out in the next 4 days, but if it gets closer to April 12th and Campbell's not back, then I think Dubas has to address the situation. But
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah, I mean, I think that I don't know. It's impossible to sit there, Mike. It's crazy to sit there and say that momentum saves are something you don't buy into. Like that's just. I mean, I don't know. That's something we have to discuss.
Okay.
Right now. We have to discuss that because I mean, honestly, that is what I mean. As a goalie, you know this because when you play the games, you know, like the response you get after a game from your teammates is not. It's not like, oh, you only gave up 2 goals in that game. You only gave up 1 goal that game. That's cool. You know, that's good. You get that maybe once in a while if you made a bunch of saves, but you will always get the response of, man, you really bailed me out on that one there. Or you did this, you know, or you kept us in it. You kept us in it on that one power play, whatever. You know, that's everything in goal. I mean, and to me, that's just the way it runs. I can't see any way around that. I mean, even we talk about Grant Fiore, we talk about Marty Brodeur, who played on a team that had played great defense, but even his key was even making big momentum saves for the Devils, especially
one of those 18 saves he faced in the playoffs every night.
But often with the Devils, they were on penalty kills and stuff like that. It was tough. I mean, it was tough.
I mean, so okay, Ross, you were talking about the Flyers.
Yeah, all right. So let's talk about the Flyers. Although I will say this in defense of Brodeur, before I was in the media and just a rabid Ranger fan, I had that argument too. But then as Brodeur started losing Hall of Famers on the roster, he still managed to make it to a Stanley Cup with not a great defense in front of him.
In 2012,
right.
In 2012 when they beat the Rangers, Russ. I mean, that was the year where
I was at that game that they got beaten at.
That was
spectacular.
That was the year where his, maybe his skills were starting to slip, and I thought Brodeur did his best job. But I can't give him full credit for when he was playing in front of Danico, Niedermeyer, and Stevens. I mean, Christ Almighty. Anyway.
No, I get it. All right, so the Flyers. I mean, my blanket statement is, Vigneault has just shuffled the deck chairs as much as he possibly can. Right now, even in Lehigh, there's still some guys that you might bring up later in the season that need some more seasoning, guys like Lisinski, maybe Zamula, guys like that, but you can't bring them up yet. So they're not ready. So there has that gap. So right now, what they have is what they have. And I don't think Vigneault can do anything more. I don't think Fletcher needs to see anything more, but yet nothing's been done. Now, as far as the Carter Hart thing, I tweeted out the other night that I would have taken him out right after that third goal. Boom, done. You're out. Yeah. I'm sorry. That's the way it is. And then after that, and I never tweeted that before, but I did. Then after that, Vigneault says, hey, you've got 2 days off. But then all of a sudden, Elliott gives up a few goals. He gives up 3 goals, and Carter Hart's back in. And I tweeted, I thought AB said he had 2 days off. And some people gave me a hard time. This is why. If you're mentally fried as a goalie, just because you got put into a situation and all of a sudden you say you don't have to think about it, it's going to cure it. It didn't, because he gave up a power play goal and then he gave up a dribbler through his legs that was really bad.
Right.
I blame the organization for this one for not giving him off and bringing up Alex Lyon to be the backup, so that if Elliott had a bad game, you could bring in Elliott and not bring in Lyon and not have to bring in Carter Hart. The fact that they brought in Carter Hart now, to me, has muddied up the situation to the point of, who are you putting in tonight?
Yeah, I know.
I don't even know anymore.
Vigneault has handled this terribly. I mean, honestly, and
it's not just him; it's a group decision. But it's going to fall on Vigneault for sure.
Yeah, it's got to fall on him, and he's got to make. I mean, playing Carter Hart at the beginning of all those back and backs, we were talking about that before. It's just adding that pressure to him that wasn't needed. Picking times, like not going with a hot goalie sometimes. If when Elliott played well, not just sticking with him for a little bit, and through a game, not just through a period or two. If he makes a mistake, I mean, just through a game, like you said, I mean, it makes way more sense to bring up like Andrew Lyon right now, and he's a very suitable, I think, NHL backup goalie. I really do. At some point in his career, he'll probably be that for sure. So yeah, I don't know. I that's a tough one, and I want to so I want to get into some Flyers rumors too, because there's a lot going on there as far as the Ekholm stuff goes, and the rumors flying out. It's there. I'm getting two different senses here. One out of Philly and one out of Nashville, and that's what's kind of not concerning, but kind of odd. The Flyers definitely think they can get Ekholm for less than they. And I know since I've started doing this, every team thinks they can get somebody for less than they can, right? That's typical.
Yes,
but
that's the way of the world.
But a lot less. I mean, the rumors out there, you may have seen over the weekend, even I think they were put out by Anthony Sanfilippo. Even I don't know if you saw this or not, Russ. Anthony used to be a beat writer for the Flyers, works for PhiladelphiaFlyers.com. He's also a pretty salacious rumor guy at times. But he put out there that that Gostisbehere a first and a second would get it done for Ekholm. And you're listening to that concept, it's just like it's absolutely bizarre.
It's really not true, because they're not.
It's not even close to true. And
Nashville's not getting really anything appreciable back, other than Gostisbehere, who's a hope that maybe you could do something with on the roster. So why would they make that deal?
Yeah, right. And Gostisbehere is not, I mean, they are desperate for forwards. If you follow that team,
yes,
they can't score goals. I mean, there's a reason that, Nolan Patrick is the guy I've been talking about, because that's the guy that they want, and that's the guy I feel like the Flyers are most likely to.
I think they want Patrick, and look, he had the shootout goal. He had the goal the other night.
Right. We know we both saw scouts up there, Russ, in those games too. Yeah. So it's like, from Nashville, there's no question that, that's where they're going to go.
Lehigh, they've been doing their due diligence.
Yeah, Gostisbehere's not. They're not interested in Gostisbehere or Gus. I've heard Gostisbehere's run out there too. I mean, this just doesn't make any sense. None of these make any sense.
And here's another point. Let's say Gostisbehere's in there just because it's a salary washer. They think they can do something with him, and it helps Philly. Maybe he does get in there, but the idea is, if that were the deal, there would be no reason for Nashville to keep going to Lehigh, but they are, because they're going there for a reason.
Right. They're looking. Yeah, they are definitely looking at prospects and things like that. I mean, they wanted
to Lehigh. If you want Shane Gostisbehere first and a second, why would you even waste the resources in this kind of year? You wouldn't.
Yeah. That's the truth. So that's something we're gonna stay with that. But I don't want to talk all Flyers and Leafs today. I definitely don't want to do that. No. We get criticized for that. So I want to move on to even though some of these rumors I'm going to talk about today have the Leafs involved, there are other teams involved as well. Right. Brandon Sutter. Okay, first I want to start with Brandon Sutter. I'm working on the rumor chart right now, and I've got about 28 guys on it. We got to about 30. I'll launch it this afternoon. Mm-hmm. Brandon Sutter is. I think it feels pretty obvious now that the Canucks are very close to becoming big time sellers. I mean, whether or not they are sellers or not at this point is hard to say. But the problem with the Canucks is that they played 31 games. And they're looking up at the standings with other teams with a lot more games.
Well, let's just put this as a caveat. We've said before that it makes sense for them to be sellers, but their unintelligent ownership has never allowed them to sell at certain points. This might be the year that they actually do it, because there's no revenue coming in, and it would save them money by trading a guy like Brandon Sutter, who's making $4.3 million. But right. I don't know how much you're going to get for him, because the last couple of years, he's been less injured than he had been in the past. I don't know, Russ. I don't know how effective of a player he is anymore.
I mean, this year he's had a little bit of a resurgence. I will give him credit for that. I still think he is a third-line player for somebody.
Yeah, I think that's the key, right? And Brandon Sutter's they've tried to make it. We've wanted him to be more, right, Russ? I mean, you've wanted Brandon Sutter to be more, but at the end of the day, if he settles into a really solid third liner who is smart, who can win faceoffs, who's got certain things, he's a center for sure, So you have certain things about him that play really well right now in the trade market. There's teams that, and he's a setter, and so
he's got size.
He's got size, he's got that classic vintage hockey type thing that people love in the Sutter family.
I think there's something there, and I think there's something there that teams want.
Now, the one thing is that,
but not his salary.
Right, obviously,
they have to take some salary in the deal.
Yeah, Vancouver is going to have to retain, and they can retain on two players, right? And so they're not retaining. What's that?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, they can retain on 2 players, and he's a rental, so it would only be for the rest of the year. So, I mean, he's got 6 goals in 31 games. I mean, let's just say this: I don't think they're getting a lot back.
No, but it's not bad production.
No.
Bad team.
No, it's not. But I'm just saying, I think that could you get a 3rd round pick for him? Sure. I don't think
the 6 goals don't really matter to me. Like the points don't really matter to me too much.
Maybe you can get a conditional second. Maybe.
I
mean, he is the kind of player that teams like to have in the playoffs. Like
sure.
He's the kind of player that you want to have in the playoff run. If you're going to make a long playoff run, he's going to help you. He might not score a ton of goals. He might get a key goal here or there, but he's going to be that 3rd line center that is going to be able to fill in and jump up if he has to a little bit. But mainly, he's a 3rd or 4th line center. Right, and I think that's where he is. And I think that, and if they retain half of his salary, I think he could probably get it done.
I think that he will be moved before the deadline because I don't think Vancouver is in it, and they can get something for him. But let's just say it's not a big, juicy,
No, it's not a big deal. But I mean, Calgary. We talked about it. His uncle obviously coaches the Calgary Flames now. Is that a place that where he would possibly go?
I don't. Well, it all depends on whether Calgary is still in the race around April 12th.
And the feeling is that they will be. I mean, I think that Calgary and Montreal are very much in a race, I feel and I feel that that's going to stay that way.
Well, the one benefit here is that, Montreal might be a team that's in on them because they're weak up the middle.
Right.
The one
Montreal being in on them, that makes sense.
Yeah. The one benefit here is Canadian to Canadian team, no 14-day quarantine.
Right. And the Maple Leafs, I've heard of, will also have interest in him, Mike, along with the Penguins and the Panthers. And I think all those teams make some sense.
I can see the Penguins.
Although it'd be a little strange for them trading a guy that they traded.
Right.
He was for sure. But they, there's no question about that. But they have, they also kind of know what he's about too. So
they do know what he's about. I do have a 2-second Sutter story. Yeah. I told it once before, but for people who hadn't heard it, in the 07 draft, I was doing a show on the concourse, and I ran out of guests. And so I started walking behind the curtain, seeing who was walking around getting food and stuff. And I see Brandon Sutter, and I said, "Hey, do you have a minute to give an interview?" And he goes, "Wait a minute." And he asked his dad if it was okay. "Dad, can I go interview with this guy?" And he asked me what I was doing it for, and he goes, "Sure." And so later I'll tweet out that picture when you see how young he is. Like, wow. It's just funny. Like, this kind of stuff just kind of makes me laugh. But he's had a decent career, and I do think he can still help somebody.
Now, I'll give you one connection here because I've been mentioning in terms of the Leafs, anything that the Leafs do would be money in, money out. Man. Alex Kerfoot, he was really rumored to go to Vancouver when he was a free agent coming out of Harvard. He's from the Vancouver area.
Right.
So there might be interest in Kerfoot in Vancouver, and Sutter, if they did make that deal, Sutter would be a sort of a stopgap center if they don't have all the confidence in the world that Pierre Engvall could handle the job as the 3rd line center. But
if I'm doing that, I'm getting Opie as well. I think that for Kerfoot, I don't see. I would not move Kerfoot for Sutter in any way, shape, or form.
No. I'm saying Sutter would be a throw-in in that deal because you have to be young assets coming back, or a defenseman or something like that. But I'm just
maybe pretty strange for a team that's at the top of the league to make that kind of a trade, though. I think that right now they should ride it out, right?
Well, I think they'd like to, but the problem is they're 130,000 under the cap. If they're going to they're going to make a move, they're probably going to have to move some money out.
Right. Yeah. That makes you wonder if they should, if that, and that's a big question to me. Like, if you're just making a move for the hell of it, then don't.
I don't think they're making the move for. I don't think the Leafs will make a move for the hell of it. I think they'll make a move because they think that they need one more piece to go over the top. That's why, an Eric Stahl, which I've been an advocate of.
Yeah.
He's only 1.6 against the cap if Buffalo retains 50%. You can fit that in. Brandon Sutter is over $2 million. That's tougher.
Yeah. Buffalo and Toronto make deals together.
they're not in the same division, and
no, they aren't, but they will be next year. And
but Stahl won't be on either team.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, so the other guy is staying in Vancouver is Holtby. And Holtby is we just mentioned them. It's another guy that there's a couple teams that are definitely interested. The Capitals are an obvious one that makes sense. Although
I don't think they should go anywhere near him because
I haven't heard. Yeah, they make sense, but like I was going to say, I haven't heard them really mentioned in the discussion.
Samsonov is playing terrific.
And honestly, I mean, I do realize that Vancouver has their defensive challenges, but Holtby was slipping the last 2 years in Washington, and he has not done anything to change that thought in people's minds. He's looked terrible this year, and if you're looking for a savior in goal, I don't think it's Braden Holtby.
I don't think you're looking at him as a savior. I think you're looking at him as a team. If you're a team with a definite starter, but a backup that you wouldn't trust to try to win you a playoff series, that's what you're looking at with Holtby. Like you're looking at a guy like he's like okay, I don't know if my backup can win me the playoff series. So I go Holtby, and I think that's how it gets. I mean, I think the Hurricanes are an interesting spot for him, and I've heard that a lot over the weekend. The Avalanche
and the Hurricanes. Sorry,
good.
The Hurricanes could throw back a Mrazek or a Reimer in the deal to balance out the money.
Yeah. Although they've really been happy with Reimer and they love Mrazek, so it's hard to say what they would do there.
They love Mrazek.
They love Mrazek.
Are you going to have $10 million in goaltending?
They just love Mrazek, even though he can't get his act together. I know.
Yeah, I mean, okay, if you keep Mrazek and you keep Reimer and you trade for Holtby, then you have over $10 million in goaltending and none of them that can stop the puck. Other than that, that's great.
Yeah. Sounds like a real
I'm kind of burying the league because the big thing is what I'm going to get to last here. But okay, so David Savard. Dennis Savard
is a bad coach. I'll get it.
Dennis Savard is not a good player anymore.
Though.
He is definitely your backup. He's your second choice after Ekholm in most cases when I'm talking to people. He's a different kind of defenseman than Ekholm, though. So I mean, it's interesting whenever I hear that. I always say, it's just like, okay, are you just getting a defenseman, or are you trying to get a certain kind of defenseman? This. I think I know the Flyers have scouted him. The Bruins have scouted him. Montreal, Winnipeg, Florida. These are all places that obviously Zito in Florida knows David Savard really well. Would trust him in a heartbeat. I could see that happening. He's already gotten some of his Blue Jackets down there that he really likes. I could see that happening. I think that he's one to definitely look out for. It's interesting to me. And not much else. I've already talked about him a lot, so I'm just going to move on to the next guy because I definitely have heard more chatter, and I feel as if they're going to hear a trade or two in the next couple of days that could trigger a bunch. So he's somebody to look out for. Kyle Palmieri we talked about last week with Kevin, and I did some research about it. I'm like, hey, it does make sense that Lou Lamoriello would like him. I don't know who mentioned it. I think it was you, Russ, maybe.
Yeah, I did.
It said like Palmieri. I could see Lou going after him.
Yep.
And sure enough, there was definitely, and talking to people in New Jersey, they said they have had those discussions. Yeah. So whether or not that happens or not, I don't know. But also the Bruins, and we talked about that too. I think Mike even mentioned that when we talked about Palmieri, because he's always been talked about with the Bruins,
right? And it's all been because he's salary wise, he's sort of in order with what the Bruins are, and now he's a rental, so the cost would be, not prohibitive. Now, Russ.
But Colorado is the other team I heard with him, and that team I think there's some real something to that. And I think of all these teams, I think Colorado would be my favorite right now for him if he's going to get moved. Now, New Jersey wants to keep him, obviously, so that's a big if.
Of course, which means they're trying to drive up the price.
All right, Eck, I just tweeted the Brandon Sutter picture to you if you want to show it later.
Oh, cool.
Okay, now, Russ, Elliot Friedman mentioned this name in terms of a team shopping a player who was looking for a change of scenery, and I scratch my head because Troy Terry in Anaheim, the challenge in Anaheim is that they can't score, and Troy Terry, the only place he hasn't scored is in Anaheim. For San Diego, he scored.
Yeah.
University of Denver, he scored. For Team USA, he scored. The only place he hasn't scored is on the Ducks. So this is one of these situations where a guy gets traded and probably blooms someplace else, and I think they're making a mistake. But, I mean,
I'm not sure. See, with Troy Terry, like I get he's great at the shootout, and there are some guys that are just great at the shootout. I've never been in love with his game 5-on-5 as a scorer.
Okay.
So I don't know if he's going to be a scorer like he was the kind of scorer he is in the shootout. I don't think so. I've never thought that. So I'm not sure. Could he do better than what he's doing? Sure. But I don't think he's, anything more than like a 35-point guy.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good picture.
He's been over a point. Granted, it's the AHL.
It's the AHL. And
so
some guys are really good at the AHL and then they just can't make the jump.
Yeah, it is definitely, there's another level there, and some players are like born to be that forever. Here's a picture of the rest of it. Man, it's pretty funny. Let me see if it comes up there. There we go. Yeah, that's that Brandon Sutter. Yeah, that's the I like the draft thing of like, should I interview you or give you $10 to shovel my driveway draft book?
Right. But he went up to Brent and was like, Dad, can I interview this guy? And he looked me over and he goes, all right. He asked me a question. He goes, yeah, all right, go ahead.
That's really funny. That dad, of course, being Brent Sutter.
Yeah, Brent Sutter, yeah. It was really funny. I've never had a moment like that. And had the guy
really he definitely looks like he'd have to ask his dad. It's so funny. I mean, he definitely looks like I think he should be going to school with my daughter. And
yeah, he looked really young at that draft. He really
did. Yeah. Now there is a issue today that the big news today, and it is really big today, is the Sherratt injury. And that plays into things as well with the rumor with how this is going to go down. Sherratt now is going to be out 6 to 8 weeks for Montreal. That is the worst possible thing that could happen to Montreal Canadiens right now.
On top of the fact that, because you think, okay, Ben Sherratt, he's a depth defenseman. No, he was playing with Shea Weber.
He's not a depth defenseman anymore. Yeah, I mean he left that role last year in the bubble when he was in playoffs when he looked every bit of a top line defenseman, and
he's playing on the left side with Weber, so he was playing major minutes. And I think what they're going to do in the interim is move Romanoff up to play with Weber, and I think that's exposing the young guy to too many minutes.
It could be. He is capable of playing a lot of minutes. He did play a fair amount. They didn't coddle him in the KHL. I mean, they don't really have a choice here. I say you might as well give it a shot, and maybe it'll work the same way it worked with Carlos, simply because Weber is that guy, and that's very possible. What I want to know is Ben Sherratt the last drafted Atlanta Thrasher playing in the NHL?
No, Evander Kane.
Kane is still, that's right.
Bogosian.
Bogosian is too. Yeah. So there's a few still.
There's a couple still, but yeah, he I was thinking that too, and
he's one of them.
Yeah,
But at any rate, I think they could try Romanoff. They're going to have to make a deal in the market. They don't need a top pairing defenseman or even a top four defenseman. They just need another defenseman. So
right. And it's a statement that they guess they don't have the confidence in Victor Mete to step in. If they're
Victor Mete they rushed him. He's all offense. He's not much even on the puck possession side where you say, all right, well, if he has the puck, you don't. So that's why.
Well, we know Montreal had a bevy of draft picks, and I think they still do for the upcoming. Yeah. Okay. In the upcoming draft, they have a first, 2 seconds, 3 thirds, 3 fourths, 3 fifths, a sixth, and a seventh. I think they can afford a couple draft picks to trade for a rental.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that now one of those rental possibilities out there, another guy I'm going to talk about now, this is going on my rumor chart, is Josh Manson, right? Who's been discussed briefly by a lot of people as well lately. The Ducks have changed their tune on what they want for him, apparently. So that's changed things a little bit, and that they really want a player that can help them sooner than later, as opposed to like a draft pick.
Yeah, but he's not a rental. He's like Ekholm. He's got another year.
He's got one more year left, but he is also, I guess he's not really technically a rental, but he's an interesting fit in that he's a defensive defenseman, which you don't have many of in the NHL right now. Montreal, I could see them working really well for Montreal, actually.
That's a good fit. I will agree with you on that. That's a very good fit. He is a guy that could be physical. I remember I did see him at Northeastern. I do like him. I haven't seen his game much lately, but we don't expect.
He's been hurt a lot. I mean, that's the thing with him. The last couple of years, he's been hurt a lot. But before that,
he played a lot too. Like his first couple of years, he played 71, 82, 80 games, 74. Then it's tailed off a bit, but he could be a guy. Yeah, if he's healthy, he could help you on a playoff run.
Yeah, and I think the Ducks will get a good amount for him actually. From what I've heard, and I think every one of the teams we talked about who's interested in defenseman could look at it.
And you know what? If I'm Anaheim, give me Ryan Poehling and a pick. I'll give Ryan Poehling a chance on my team because we need offense.
Right.
And we might do it.
I think you get a lot more for Manson.
Well, you might be able to get a better pick or a better player.
Poehling's got some.
Poehling is an NHL.
There's some people who like Poehling a lot out there.
Yeah,
obviously.
So I think if you could get Poehling and a conditional first, or Poehling and a second, you do it.
Yeah, and a mean streak, as Randy put in the chat room, is very true.
That's a mean streak too.
Manson, which is huge in the playoffs, and could be huge for certain teams. Like, I mean, this is a guy that would really fit in well, in Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh could really use a guy like this. I mean, they need defensive defensemen. They don't have any.
Yeah, Pittsburgh though, they're going to struggle with what they could give Anaheim back.
For sure. Especially if
they're going to say, "Hey, give us Sam Poulin," and they're going to be like, "Well, then we got nothing."
Yeah, right. But the big story I'm burying here is the crazy rumor I heard just before I posted my blog. So that's why it ended up at the end and not as my title. But as I was typing it, that there has been discussions between Tampa Bay and Buffalo about Jeff Skinner, and how this is going to happen. I have no friggin' idea, except for the fact that Tyler Johnson would be part of it. Tyler Johnson would go back to Buffalo as part of that deal, and
this is going to be a mind F. I'm not going to drop the F bomb, but that's what this trade would be. If this happens, we all have to now figure out, and I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to write about it. I don't want to do the mental gymnastics that it takes to figure this out cap-wise. I'm not smart.
No, cap-wise, I'm not. I never worry about cap-wise because honestly, they know I don't have enough. But I've always said we don't have enough information. We can sit there and Cap Geeks or Puckpedia, all these things, and we still don't have enough information to really know what these teams can do with the salary cap. Honestly, because there's stuff there, and we don't know what different players' situations are. There's so many things, and you can't sit there and logically write an article about something you don't know all the pieces to. So that's why I don't really even worry about this. I just to say that. I said I don't know how it'll happen, but Skinner, Tampa likes Skinner. Buffalo likes Tyler Johnson, and these are two problem issues right now, right? With each team, they both want to move them, and I know Mike's going to say that there's no way in hell this is going to happen, so I'm just talking.
There's no way in hell this is going to happen.
So he can't.
Why? Why do you say that?
But there's no way in hell you can say there's no way in hell this is going to happen, Mike, because honestly, there are ways in Buffalo that this could happen.
Because Julien BriseBois is not an idiot. That's why. Nobody in their right mind is taking. First of all, Jeff Skinner is not.
I'm not saying he's going to keep his whole. He's going to take that whole contract. There's no way. There's no way he's going to take that whole contract.
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
Jeff Skinner, first of all, is not waiving his no move clause.
The one
to a Stanley Cup team?
No.
You're not going to have. There's no way he's not going to waive his no trade clause.
I don't know about that, Mike.
No. First of all, one of the main motivations for Jeff Skinner signing an 8-year, no-move, $9 million contract with the Sabres is because he's from Toronto.
I get it. He could charter a plane, though, Mike.
Yeah, I'm from New Jersey, but
Okay, let's move past that. If you think he wants to get out of the cesspool that is Buffalo and the organization.
1 second. Live in Buffalo. Live in Tampa. Play for the Sabres on the fourth line. Play for a Stanley Cup champion.
Okay. Second thing.
Go ahead.
Tyler Johnson has 3 years left after this year, $5 million.
Yeah.
Jeff Skinner has 6 more years at $9 million. I don't care.
3 years from now, the salary cap will go up.
I don't care if you have everybody signed. Everybody. You've got Stamkos signed. You've got Kucherov signed. You've got Yanni Gord signed. Hedman, Vasilevsky. You still got to sign Braden Point. You still got to sign Cirelli in 2 years. You're going to have $9 million of an albatross around your neck. And I tell you, the way that Tampa Bay cleans off Tyler Johnson's contract is you give Seattle a second-round pick. He's from Spokane. He's going to be a Kraken next year.
For sure.
Except now,
contract is immovable.
If Johnson is a Kraken, don't come knocking. Is that what you're saying?
The only thing I say about this is I can never say never. I understand what Mike brought up some good points, but I will never say never simply because if Jeff Skinner goes to Tampa and if they win another Stanley Cup and if he performs well, the contract is no longer an albatross.
Right. Yeah, and that's
the fact of that.
When you have a $9 million contract and you can eat up to half of that money, that is a huge issue for Buffalo. But at the same time, Buffalo has a lot of money, a lot of salary cap money, and this situation is horrendous. So the idea here is maybe they can move Johnston to the Kraken for something significant. There's other things that can.
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day here.
And then it turns into just a rental for them.
And I wrote a blog because I'm covering the Sabres temporarily for the website. I wrote a blog today about who's really in charge, Kruger or Kevin Adams, and can the Sabres afford not to be going after Gary Galley super hard right now? Because I really think that that's why are you looking at me like that, Mike?
No, you said Gary Galley?
Oh, I didn't mean Galley. What am I talking about? I'm losing my mind. Gosh. Oh, why do I say Gary Galley? Oh my God. I'm sorry.
Unless you just want to talk about
the coach from Vegas. What am I losing my mind on?
Oh, I mean Gerard Gallant.
Thank you. God, why would I go Galley and Gallant? That's so funny. No,
well, okay. This is the thing. Gerard Gallant's got options, and any coach that's got options is not going to Buffalo. This is the thing. I think the most realistic head coach potential for the Sabres is Bruce Boudreau. If it's not Bruce Boudreau, then I think it's Russ, the Swedish coach who they talked to a couple years ago.
Yeah, Kronberg.
I think those are the two big options.
Right.
I don't know his name, but I know. But Gallant is going to be at the top of the list for, it's going to be Gallant. It's going to be Babcock, those coaches. And those coaches aren't going to Buffalo because Buffalo is a tire fire right now.
And Torts.
Torts, you mentioned the Rangers. That I would love that just for the theater of it, Russ.
Here's great off season. You want good off season?
Kronberg.
Yeah. I said Kronberg after. I corrected myself. Great theater would be Tortorella's out there as a coach. He talks to Buffalo. He talks to the Rangers. The articles that would get generated from that.
And then Russ, Buffalo offers him $5 million a year, and he can't. And then at the last moment, he goes to the Rangers.
Right. This would be great theater.
And my friend Mike Harrington flies to New York and browbeats Jeff Gordon and Torts about why he tantalized the Sabres before going to the Rangers.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm fixing. I am such a freaking idiot, man.
I'll tell you,
it's the kind of thing that makes me insane because I've been going nuts here and I'm completely and utterly.
It's GG. So
I know, but I wrote I fixed my freaking blog now because
you typed Gary Galley.
I typed Gary Galley out. I did. I know everyone's gonna have a blast.
I'm gonna give you this.
There's already 20 comments of people ripping me to shreds on there. Fantastic.
I'm gonna give you this. If
I'm not gonna delete it. I'm gonna leave it up there. I'm an idiot. I made a mistake. This is what happens.
Makes mistakes. I'm going to give you this. If there's ever a salary dump, player for player, like an NBA trade, look at Vegas to trade for Jeff Skinner because Steve Spott, who used to be Skinner's coach in Kitchener, is an assistant in Vegas. And Vegas does have some salaries at some point that they might want to ship around to another team to say, hey, you give this guy a try, we'll give that one a try.
I think Skinner is going to outlast Kruger, and Skinner is staying in Buffalo.
Okay, I'm just saying this as a possibility, Mike. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a total possibility. You guys talk about something.
We have some high-priced guys that
Talk about something while I fix this, guys. Sorry about that.
But listen, if Gary Galley's out there, certainly come up.
He's available. I'm sure he's really happy. I'm sure he's been getting a lot of phone calls this morning. I'm such a freaking idiot. And sometimes I tell you, I'm just doing too many things at once here. I apologize. I'm such a freaking idiot. You guys talk about something else.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to catch it off guard, but
No. You just got me. I was just.
Phil.
I was just looking what Gary Galley was doing. He was most
Thank you.
recently on Team 1200 in Ottawa, and we know.
Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about.
Go ahead.
Russ, two of the more maligned players over the last few years were placed on waivers yesterday and both cleared shockingly. David Backus in Anaheim and Jack Johnson, Rangers.
Yeah, the Jack Johnson one, here's the easy explanation for this. My belief is they signed Jack Johnson because, hey, Jacques wanted him and Jacques Martin wanted him. He had him before. They tried him out. They didn't like him. Now they'll keep him on the taxi squad. He's getting a salary, and everybody knows that he could use the money. So in that regard, they probably did a good thing. The bad part about this is they're so close to the cap, they have to fit in Shesterkin first and then try and fit in Kravtsov later just to get after Kravtsov plays a little while after quarantine in Hartford. And so they're a little bit cap strapped because of bonuses and other things that could happen to them to actually play some of the youngsters. Remember, we talked about this at the beginning of the year. Larry Brooks wrote about it, and now it's probably going to happen. You know, as far as Backus, I mean, we don't need to beat a dead horse.
And the other one, and of course, I was taking a bow on Saturday, legitimately, because
Gary Galley's on Sportsnet. Randy said, "Okay,
Yes, he is.
I've been taking. I was
Very
taking.
nice guy. I totally don't know what's wrong with me. Sorry, continue.
I was taking a bow on Saturday, legitimately, because the Carolina Hurricanes must have realized what I said three and a half years ago was correct, because they waived Jake Gardiner, because Jake Gardiner is a horrible defenseman. I don't care what the analytics has said over the last few years. He is a tire fire. I don't know why the Carolina Hurricanes signed him to a 4-year extension. Now, I think they realized that they could waive him and he wasn't going to get claimed by anybody. But Russ, he's truly terrible. And now they realize it.
He is, again, they got Jake Gardiner instead of getting, other things they needed. And the Jake Gardiner signing just never, goalie. The whole thing never made sense. It just never did, especially when they had Jake Bean. Like, I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, you could see Jake Bean scoring points now. So, like, what were they thinking? Honestly, I don't know. But, again, this is where you get a mixed bag with Don Waddell. Super nice guy. Team's been good, but the team's been good because of a lot of the drafting. And, again, you look at some of these transactions, and if they don't win a cup in the next year or two, you're going to look at this team and say, boy, they've squandered a lot. Or if Rod Brind'Amour just doesn't come back after this year, which is probably the least talked about story in the NHL right now.
Now, I have to tip my hat to the Buffalo News, because I just saw this. If you notice, they have in their rankings of 1 through 32 in the NHL, they have the Seattle Kraken ranked 31st ahead of the Buffalo Sabres. It says a service act that deserves to be below a yet-to-start expansion team.
That's fine, but what do you think about
Bravo?
Huh?
Bravo to the Buffalo News on that.
Yeah. But what do you think about what we were just talking about?
Gardner?
About Rob Brind'Amour.
I think Brind'Amour
is coming back.
Only if they pay him, and Thomas Dundon has shown that he doesn't pay anybody. Look at what happened with John Forsland. No, I mean, I honestly, Francis is in Seattle. Forsland is in Seattle. I think
Brind'Amour in Seattle.
I think there's a good chance that Brind'Amour is in Seattle, because they will pay him. I don't know whether Dundon will pay Brind'Amour. Brind'Amour, I mean, at the halfway point, people were saying Brind'Amour is leading for the Jack Adams.
What do you think, Eck? I mean, it does make sense.
I think that I heard, and I wrote this about it before, that I heard Brind'Amour's name mentioned with them a lot, and I think it's going to happen. I do. I think that doesn't matter if he wins the Jack Adams or not. I think he's going to be Seattle Kraken coach. I think it's the kind of thing that Brind'Amour loves to do. It's a perfect fit for him. I mean, he loves it in Carolina, obviously, but he likes challenges, right? So to me, it's a really exciting opportunity. I mean, you can't deny that.
So this prospect must excite you. Apparently, yesterday in a Game 4 in the Gagarin Cup playoffs, Ilya Kovalchuk scored in double overtime for the winner. I'm sure that means he will be on the rumor board for this.
No, he's definitely never going to be allowed to be on the rumor board again, no matter what he does.
All right, so I'm going to answer somebody in the chat room real quick. They're asking what the state of the Sabres prospects are. Okay, Quinn is to me like a B+ prospect. I like him, but obviously don't go by his AHL numbers. He's not physically ready.
And we had Joe Yurden on our Off the Post a couple weeks ago, and he said that Quinn is overmatched in the AHL.
Yeah,
so
of course.
Probably back to the OHL next year.
Yeah, don't go by what he's still got a really great shot and a great skater. Peterka's
I fixed everything I had to fix. I removed Gary Galley from every place I had to.
Peterka,
I apologize, folks. I really do. I've been up all night trying to get everything together, and it's just amazing when I do that. I have always screwed those two players' names up together, and I knew it as I was saying it out loud right now. That's when I said to Mike, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Because I'm thinking Mike knows that I'm definitely saying the wrong name here, and I'm thinking one player, picturing Gerard Gallant's face in my head as I say it, and I'm like, "That's Gary Galley."
Yeah, so
just like
watching the slow deteration of a man.
Like you're picturing Sam the Eagle when you're thinking of Daryl Sutter.
I do.
I'm going to finish
that. If I wrote Sam the Eagle, that wouldn't be as bad as what I just did with writing Gary Galley. So there you go.
I'm just going to fix this quick. So Cousins an A, Johnson's a B. Johnson's probably 3 years away. Peterka's a B. He's probably 2 years away. Bryson obviously is very good. He's up now. He's a B. Matthias Samuelsson, I think, is a C. I think he'll have to just get to be a better skater. He's already physical.
Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
Pekka Luukkonen is, I think, a B. And
they really love Matesh Pekar.
Yeah, Pekar. I think he's a C. I watched him in the USHL. I think he's good. I still think Middlestat's a B. I moved him off being an A because of the rush job that they did with him. But at the end of the day, Will Borgen, I still think is like a C because I think he can play at the NHL level, but he's just going to be a defensive defenseman who's physical, which is fine. So they do have 7 to 8 good prospects. They're not bereft of prospects.
Roger, answer your question. Chances of Lindy Ruff going back to Buffalo? 0.
No, they like him.
Which is unfortunate because honestly, it might not be a bad idea right now. I don't say that. I mean, I know that. And honestly, he is. I've talked to so many players about him, and they will all tell me flat out that he is like one of the best coaches they've ever played for.
We're talking about him act as a sort of team president, senior advisor, and then from what we've heard over the last week or so, the Sabres don't believe in in senior level. Like they Pagulas want direct control through Kevin Adams to the roster, and that's turned out to be wonderful.
I will say this: Lindy has done better than I would think.
Yes,
would have thought with the Devils. The record doesn't show it, but they are getting some improvement out of players, so he's not going anywhere.
Yeah. I'm gonna agree with William in the chat room for a second about this. I think the Buffalo and Mike, you're gonna totally disagree with me on this one, and that's fine, because that's what you do. But I'm sorry, I'm really mad at myself. Trying to get over it. All right, so no, but that's what you do, and no, I think the Buffalo media is being unbearably difficult on the Sabres. Now, I'm not going to say that they deserve it. They deserve 99% of it, but there is a certain level at which you gotta just realize what's going on.
It's weird.
How good the Sabres going to be in reality, like the best they could have been.
It's weird of the dichotomy of the coverage of the Buffalo media when it comes to the Bills and when it comes to the Sabres. But it is the fact that this organization has been a tire fire ever since the Pagulas bought them. The first year they came in, Terry Pagula as the savior, buying them from Tom Golisano, who got them out of bankruptcy from the Regases. He came in, Daddy Warbucks, I got all the big money, I can open up an oil well, all that stuff, and he threw money at what they thought were the problems. And what did they do? They went out and traded for Brad Boyes at the trade deadline that got him in the playoffs, and then in the next year in free agency, they signed Christian Ehrhoff and Ville Laino. And
that Ehrhoff signing was bad. I talked about it at the time. He was well past it. That's the problem. This is the biggest problem that really hasn't stopped in Buffalo is, and look, I haven't killed all their contracts because I thought with Skinner, the way it worked out, it was worthy But again, nobody saw what was going to happen with Skinner this year, and I still think he'll rebound. But if you go back and look at their contracts for like the last 4 or 5 years, the large majority of them were bad signings.
I've had people, I've had people email me, Mike, that I'm the reason that they signed Billy Leno because Pagula's read Hockey Buzz all the time, and I was really super high on Billy Leno because I really was because he was.
Listen, Billy Leno for a little while in Philly could do no wrong.
During that playoff run, he was magical.
Because he was playing with, wasn't he playing with Briere?
He was playing with Briere and Giroux, and this is Giroux's like rookie year, or whatever. Briere, Giroux, that line was frigging unbelievable.
He was playing left wing.
There's no question he was playing the wing, and signing him as a center, that's ridiculous. Right. But I wrote, I had article headlines that were like Philadelphia and stuff like that. Like I was completely. Of course you did. No, because he would make some of his skill level was undeniable. Like he was. And when he played with other skilled players with Briere and Giroux, that was a hell of a line. That was a great line during that 2010 Stanley Cup.
I'm not going to count Giroux. I'm going to count Briere as one of the great playoff performers in the last decade in the NHL. He's a point per game in the playoffs. Yes, Giroux is the help on that line, but the fact that he meshed with Briere, that's where his points came from.
No question about it. But Briere, it was a real blending of things. Though there was a real convergence of some of the parts type thing. And honestly,
I have to go to two hands to count the number of multi-million-dollar bad contracts that the Sabres have signed over the last decade. Matt Molson, Billy Leno, Christian Ehrhoff, Tyler Myers, Kyle Oposo, Jeff Skinner. Keep going. It didn't matter who the GM was. The common denominator here is the ownership of the team. They have to, accept culpability and responsibility.
No question about it.
Right. And the thing is, with the Sabres, they've gone to war with the media. That's the problem, Mac, is that they've gone to, and the media is fighting back because when you give them a product that's so embarrassing that even when people can go back in the stands, nobody's buying the tickets.
Well, there's no two ways about that. And Sabres, they've always had an interesting relationship with the media for sure. They have one of the most crazy followings on the planet. Among fans, they're so into this fan base loves the Sabres more than almost any team. It's interesting. Like I was asked the other day, I was on a radio station and they asked me what fan bases were the craziest, and I said that in the U. Obviously Toronto and Montreal and Canada and Edmonton, but in the U.S. to me, there's two teams that are bar none the most insane fan bases, and they are the Sabres and the Islanders. And those two fan bases are just. They are so, and these are teams that haven't had a lot of success in a while. The Islanders are starting to see it, but those two fan bases are just passionate, beyond passionate.
And I know that a lot of the Buffalo media will disagree with me on this point, and I know that you'll disagree with me on this point because we've disagreed on this point for ages.
Yes.
But the only thing that this team has done right over the last decade is tank for Jack Eichel or Connor McDavid. That was the only thing they did right. And they're even screwing that up because they can't put a team around Jack Eichel.
They didn't really do that right because they lost the ping pong ball thing. So, Jack
Eichel is one of the five.
No, he's a great pickup, but obviously he's still not Connor McDavid. Okay, so at the end of the day, and that is the interesting question to ask, I guess, and the question that
all right.
What if Connor McDavid was a Sabre? What would have happened? How would things have changed?
You can't go there. What I want to say is this: you're saying Jack Eichel is not Connor McDavid is like saying, "Hey, a Buffalo bagel is good, but I'd rather have a New York City bagel." That's really what you're saying,
Russ. It's like the choice that ex-favorite Billy Joel had back in the 80s. He was dating Elle McPherson and he was dating and then he dated Christy Brinkley.
I'm telling you,
how can you miss?
That's the proof that I'm telling you. Like me, I married up to be a musician. You'll find beautiful women. It's craziness.
That's true. I want to make 2 points, Zach. Kiefer Bellows is doing some of that filling in. I talked about the Islanders. He is scoring. So that's now temporarily without, Anders Lee, they're surviving. The other thing is there's rumors out there now that RNH, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, is still talking about an extension in Edmonton. If that's true, and I think it's true, that's another guy you could take off the free agent market. I don't think he'll ever hit the market.
No.
Right.
And more than likely, Russ, since he's been there for 7 years, he's not going to get Draisaitl money.
No.
But he's making $6 now. He signed that extension out of his entry level. He'll probably get $6.5, $7 million.
He's really a good guy. Like, I don't see him veering off course too much salary-wise.
Yeah.
And he's become a much better player. He's good defensively. He's better on faceoffs. He's become a good, well-rounded player. He's never hitting the market.
He can play center. He can play wing. He can play with talent. Yeah, he's not going anywhere. But until Edmonton gets themselves a goalie.
They have a goalie, Mike. He hasn't played yet.
Oh,
played yet.
Please.
When's he going to play? He's got to be soon. We're getting there.
I would think next week. I think he has to still sit out this week.
The savior, Alex Stalock.
Somebody have a number for him so I can text him. I need to text Alex Stalock.
I can get to him. All
I
right.
don't know if you can say it like that.
No, I mean, I know a good friends of his.
Actually, okay, he's done with his 2-week quarantine, so I would think.
I think he's coming. I think it's soon, right? I mean,
I would think it would be soon. I think he's
gonna have to work out because he's
gonna have to work out. I don't know if he'll get in a game anywhere because there's no place to go in Canada.
No, he'll take his spot on the taxi squad, Russ.
You know what teams need to do? There's a place near me that used to be run by gosh, I forget it, really one of the Flyers defensemen who he owned the place. He built it. It's a mini arena. Have you seen these mini arenas? They're like 1/3 the size of a normal NHL arena. So it's like a place you can practice with youth hockey teams and skate around, stuff like that. It's full ice and everything. I mean, it's ice, but it's not full. I played games there, 3-on-3 tournaments. They're a blast to play, like as a goalie, because there's all kinds of action because the puck's always not far from you, because you can score from either end. But it's kind of, what was that?
Somebody's phone is vibrating like really heavy.
It's not
me.
me.
It's mine. Shoot, sorry, it's right in my microphone. Sorry about that.
Okay, while you're
right, but here's the thing. Here's the deal. Okay, so what teams need to do is that place also has like an apartment on it. Teams need to find these places in local cities when a guy is quarantining and say, okay, you're going to quarantine there, but you can also skate there. You can also practice there. You can keep yourself in shape, because this whole concept of like you got to be in your home you got to be in a hotel for 14 days. It's ridiculous. You can't tell me there's not these kind of places in Edmonton.
Well, you can rent it out and nobody's in there but you and maybe a trainer. You probably get away with it.
You can afford to rent that out for 2 weeks and say, okay, this is your place. You're going to live here. We're going to put a cot upstairs, cable TV. That's it. You're done.
I got a better idea. How about reducing the quarantine to 7 days? Mike Doyle here. Foligno would be the perfect third line center the Pens need. There's only one problem. Nick Foligno is not a center.
Right.
He's a wing. He has played center in a pinch for Columbus a few years ago, but he's not a center. So no, that would not work.
Yeah. All right.
So when asked if I'm going to MSG games, not right now, because I still, until I'm fully vaccinated, won't go to New York. It's just the way it is.
Savage asked if in the chat room have the Hall of Blues rumors persisted. Yeah, they're still there for sure. I'm going to work on that. That should be part of my rumor chart, which should launch later today. I think Hart is playing tonight for the Flyers. All right. That's all the time we have today.
Decision, I can't.
Gary Galley, wherever you are, I'm sorry. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you if we're still here tomorrow.